I present to you guys change 6,472 in this Audi build. Now this is actually the third subwoofer for the car, and as much as we've changed subwoofers in the car, everything else in the car has changed as well. Aside from the head unit and the processor, everything else in the car is different. The tweeters are different, the mids are different, the 6.5s are different. The amplifiers we originally planned on using were the Sundown Salt multi-channels, and now we're running the new Stereo Integrity Class A/B stuff. So just as much as the plan and the build on this car has evolved and changed over the past year, Stereo Integrity itself as a company has changed over the past year. But right now I'm going to walk you guys through the sub portion of the car and how that has evolved, and then I'll walk you through the rest of the equipment in the car and the car as a whole. So this was the original intent in the car. For the sub, we were going to run the SQL15 and 2 cubic feet sealed in that spare tire well. So to get this in there and to get the airspace I needed, I had to remove the hump that housed the evap canister that was on the bottom side of the car in that spare tire well. So I drilled up those spot welds, removed that hump, and as soon as I removed the hump, I knew this was not going to be the sub we were going to be using. It just wasn't the right application for the car. Nick builds 24s, and I felt a 24 would be better suited for what he was doing than this little SQL15. And this is that 24. So big monster, as you could tell from the previous clip, much larger than that 15 that we were going to use. Beautiful driver with that carbon dust cap, but this is not the right solution for the car. What's hiding in this box is. So let's get this guy uncrated. I'll show you the final sub choice for the car, and then we'll go through everything else that has changed in the car. So let's go ahead and get this guy out of here. I'm going to run my knife around here. All right, now I need to get my drill. At this point, really, it's an uncrating. Now we can actually start seeing the sub. So at this point, I need to remove the sub from the crate. It's actually bolted to the crate right now. So let me grab some more tools and we will get that taken care of. Now just to show you guys how this is packed inside there, nice and solid. You can see I was trying to turn these socket head cap screws. There's a nut on the bottom side, so I've got to work from both sides to get that out of there. They're actually bolted to the crate. So I'll get these guys unbolted and show you the sub. So I pulled this guy out, put it up on the OSB that was protecting it so I can more easily show you guys. So let's pull this plastic back and take a look at the change. And this is the new driver. The big change obviously is going from the paper cone material to carbon cone material. And we have this nice large carbon dust cap with the Stereo Integrity logo hiding there. So this is the change for the sub, just going to this nice carbon cone with the carbon cap. Everything's nice and aligned, looks killer. And then that subdued Stereo Integrity logo just kind of finishes it off. So the next change came about with the M25 Tweeters, and those of you that have M25s know that these look different from the ones that you have, and the reason for that is they've been machined down to a 47 millimeter outer diameter. And if you look around the perimeter of this, you can see that there was a screw location here, and one there. So every 120 degrees you had a recessed screw in the perimeter of this, And when you look at the profile of it, where it came up and then it came back down, almost a pyramid or a triangular circular trim around this, it wasn't the best looking tweeter. That was not the issue with them though. When you rotate them this way, this is where they became an issue. And that issue was the mounting depth from here to here. So I told Nick, dude, I'm having an issue getting these tweeters behind the factory grills in your car. There's simply not enough space. And when he told me, well, you know, you can go ahead and remove the back panel and you can trim this ring down because there's a gap of air in here. So I pulled the back plate and I look, and this tweeter is sealed inside there. So a lot of this aluminum that you see here doesn't really serve a purpose. I come up, I'm touching the back of the motor right here. So with touching the motor there, all of that aluminum around this just was unnecessary. And if you look deeper into it, I could actually go so far as to get rid of the aluminum up to this point, and then I just would have a small section where the magnet was here. So I could greatly reduce the size of this. And my point to Nick was, if I'm having to do this for your tweeters in your car, think about how many other cars these simply don't fit in. If there's a situation where they don't fit in the car, that's a lost sale. So I told him, make a better looking tweeter, make it shallower, and make it sound as good or better than this one. So that's where these guys came into play, the new M25s. And if you look at the two of them together, they are very different. Much shallower. Instead of relying on the 3 screws around the perimeter to mount it, this one has a nice ring that compresses and tightens against your baffle. Much better design, beautiful looking driver. This is a prototype. You guys know the production units are already in Nick's hands and they are shipping out, but this is the new tweeter in the car. So going from the 15 to the 24, and then new tweeters were developed for the car, and you guys are reaping the benefits of that happening. Now we're looking at the mid-ranges. These were originally the mids that were going to go in the car, and the initial design was to be installed in the kick panels where the previous owner, Ian, had ran 3s in the past. So these are the M3s you guys all know, but Nick developed these guys, the M3 carbons, and same physical dimensions as the old M3, but carbon cone, different surround, and these are now wideband, where the old M3s were just a mid-range. These are wideband capable, and that is the benefit of building the car the way we're building it, is I can run these in the kicks as a wideband tweeterless with the 6.5s. So where we couldn't run these guys tweeterless, we can run these. So it opens up our options to showcase what the Stereo Integrity products can do. So there's the M3s, new versus old, and we'll move on to the next change in the lineup, which is the 6.5s. This is the TM65 Mark III. Carbon cone, carbon cap, S surround, 9mm one-way linear excursion. Great driver. Type of 6.5 that would rattle your pants leg as you're sitting in the car. So for the longest time, this was what was going in the car. Nick and I had talked, and he was talking about developing new 6.5s with Neo motors, but you guys know everything has gone nuts in pricing, and the price of Neo has tripled. So these TM65s and the updated version were not going to happen just because of materials pricing. But things change, as they always do, and we have a new driver that's going in the car and that you guys will be seeing soon. So this is the Mark IV TM65. Has an aluminum cone, aluminum cap. It has the rain shield that all of the previous TM65s have had. It has a beefy coil in it, it's running a 2-inch coil. So 2-inch coil, if I remember correctly, it is a CZA former on the voice coil, push terminals, and this one has 7mm one-way linear excursion. That's at 70% of BL, or motor force. So that is the change in the 6.5s in the car, going from the Mark IIIs that had 9mm of one-way linear excursion to the new Mark IVs that have 7mm, old S surround here, and your half roll on this one. If it wasn't an upgrade, you wouldn't be seeing these guys. I know a lot of people will go, well, this has more excursion, blah blah blah. This is actually a smoother driver than these were, which is saying something. And if you look at them, the difference in mounting depth, the new driver is about a 1/16 of an inch or so shallower in mounting depth. So let's go look at the car now. Now at the car, this is another equipment change. The original plan was to have the 24 here and have the Sundown Salt multi-channels here, and you can see I've got prototypes here. This one actually has labeling on it, that one does not, and I've got another one over there on the shelf that doesn't have anything. But with those amplifiers, I could have packaged them right there on the front side of that sublocation and had all of the amplifiers in the floor of the car. But as you guys know, everything has changed and we have new stuff. And this is the biggest of those changes in the back of the car. This is the Stereo Integrity SIQ 200.4. It's 200 watts by 4 at 4 ohms, class AB. What we're going to use this for in the car, we're going to bridge it down to 2 channels, run 845 watts by 2 at 4 ohms to each coil on the 24. So I'm going to show you how this guy presented a problem. Now that I've got the 200.4 in place, you can see how it takes up the entire location that those 2 multi-channels from Sundown were going to be. So at that point, I still have 2 more amplifiers to go in. I have a 200.2 that's going to power the mid basses, and I have a 75 by 4 that's going to power the mids and tweets. So my options to keep everything hidden are to tuck them behind the factory panels that are on either side of the cargo area. So on this side, you guys know Audi, these German cars, they have this mesh like expanding stuff that comes out. It was also here, there was a recessed pocket over here. That stuff was recessed in there and it all sagged, it wears out, they all do, they lose elasticity. So I just cut this out, removed it, smoothed it, so that this can be one nice long continuous piece there, and I can get the 200.2 tucked in behind that panel. Now on the passenger side of the car, if you look, you can see the wheel well is much farther forward there than it is over here. You can see how far this comes back. That one's much farther forward. The reason for that is over here there's a filler neck that runs down in here. So you have this wheel well that is physically longer in the car. That caused an issue getting the 75.4 to tuck in behind these factory panels on this side. As you can see, these are out of the car getting rebuilt. So I cut into the wheel well, went in as far as I could. They gave me clearance to get the 75.4 mounted here. So a simple change of amplifiers doesn't seem like a big deal, but it creates so much more work just to get them in the car and stay with the whole stealth aesthetic that we were going for. So now I'm in the car. I'm going to show you guys changes that we went through here in the car. One of the big changes obviously was the sound deadening. I don't know if you guys can hear a difference in my voice in the car versus outside the shop, but it is pretty quiet in here. I've had people in here and they're talking about how creepy it is because it's so quiet. They can hear their tinnitus, they can hear their heartbeat. It is crazy quiet in here. One of the reasons, aside from the sound deadening, that it's so quiet is because of all the suede that was put in. The headliner in the car was sagging. Nick said, hey, while it's there, can you do the headliner? And when we decided to do the 24, the whole project snowballed. Second Skin, JS, XS Power, they all got in on the build. So because of that, the intensity, the level we went to in the build changed. So I completely gutted the car, completely treated it with second skin products. You guys have seen the videos. And I couldn't do a lot up here at the top because of the sunroof sliding back. I did my Amplifier Pro up there, did some Heatwave, not Heatwave Pro, the Megazorb up top. And then it came time to upholster literally everything from the window line up in the car. And we tried to get a match for the factory material, and I ordered what was told to be the closest match on the market, and it just wasn't. As far as color, it looked horrible. So then option B was to go with a beige suede, and it looks killer except for one location, and that is right here, the inside of these A-pillars. I wrapped these guys 3 times, and they say idiocy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, I was an idiot right here because I wrapped them. They look great. And what happened here is that the suede actually pulled loose from the foam backing that is on the material. So what I'm going to do is get out the body filler. I'm going to strip these A-pillars for the 3rd, 4th time. I'm going to go ahead, strip these, run body filler in here, change this radius so it's not as sharp of a radius, and then I'll wrap these guys again and they will be in the car for the final time. Now you guys know this was intended to be a full stealth build, 15 in the spare, which changed to a 24, and I'll walk you guys through all of the speaker changes as far as the old tweeter and the new tweeter, the mid, the 6.5. Here's another change, a physical change that happened in the car that you guys have not been made aware of. And this is it. At one point, Nick wanted to put the wideband M3, the new M3 carbons, right here on the pillar, on the dash in the corners. So we're on the phone, and Nick says he wants to put them over there, and I'm like, sure. It wasn't happening. Now, there was no way I was going to put them there. At the time, we were working on the 24 in the back of the car. Sumo and I told him, I was like, dude, Nick wants to put the tweeters right there in the pillars, and Sumo's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, it's not happening. So we just let that one sit. We let that thought, I guess, marinate. And time goes by, and Nick goes, hey, I think you're right. We need to put those mids in the kicks, which I'd already been building for the kicks anyway. So that's the way it's been. It's just been a constant evolution of everything in the car. So everything's finalized. Every driver is here. The car is what it is going to be. There's no more changes to be made. At this point, it's time to just finish the build, do the little stuff. One thing I'll show you right here, we've got the director mounted in right here. So that is also stealth. Everything's hidden in the car with the exception of the head unit. So you will not see anything in the car. You won't see the big pillar pods that everybody likes to do, which are going to be, I don't know, I think they're outdated. I think there's something that's going to be like the 90s volcanoes for subwoofers. I think the huge pillars are going to become dated in time. But yeah, we're going to have our tweeter here, mid bass, and mid in the kick. So that's a quick summary of the changes that we've made as far as equipment in the car. Not only equipment, but placement of the equipment in the car. Changes with the build plan, going from the 15 in the spare tire wheel to the 24 was a huge time suck, but it's going to be cool in the end. All of the suede, everything from the window line up, that came about because of a sagging headliner, and we couldn't get matching material. So literally every piece in the car that had carpet or factory headliner material on it got rebuilt, recovered. And that suede actually benefited us some because it does absorb more reflective sound in the car, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that is it. I'm going to show you guys back through here now where we are. Something I didn't mention is that this guy over here was reupholstered. Everything in the back of the car is getting reupholstered and rebuilt as well. I haven't shown that But when I say that there's not a part inside the car that I haven't touched, I absolutely mean everything in the car has been stripped and refinished. So you guys will get to see more later. The next video will be setup and tuning of the car, as well as finalization of the stuff back there in the floor. See you guys next time.